Welcome to the official Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society's podcast. I'm your host, Barnaby, and you're listening to Whispers from the Dark. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Whispers from the Dark. I am your host, Barnaby, and today I am joined with one of the stars of the paranormal podcasting world, none other than Kurt Sandvig. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
It's my pleasure, man. So you are the host of Paranormal Almanac, right?
You even put the pause in there. That's right. Yes, exactly. Paranormal Almanac. Yep.
Oh yeah, I've heard that many times. About, let's see, 198 so far at this point.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. You know, I'll give you a little exclusive. I don't think I've ever talked about the reason that pause is in there.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever brought it up is because I used to do a podcast called Drunken Metaphysical. So on the first episode, I was like, you got to remember it's Paranormal Almanac. It's not Drunken Metaphysical, Paranormal Almanac. And then the very first episode, I went paranormal. And in my brain, I wanted to write or say metaphysical. So I was like, Almanac. And then after the first one, I was like, well, I got to do that every time. So it's become the in thing to do. You got to add the pause.
Oh, awesome. I've wondered this listening to your show. Do you record that live each episode?
I did up until very recently, and now it's just thrown in there. You know, like with your host Kurt Sandvig, that's recorded, and then from the very beginning, from like the, you know, that's right, I'm your host Kurt Sandvig on this week's edition of That's All Live. That point on, from this week, it's all live. And very recently, it's now getting to the point where I don't really edit the show anymore. I used to edit the crap out of the show, and I would replace that intro with earlier intros because I liked the way it sounded on the earlier episodes. And, you know, I messed with it too much, and to the point where I realized I didn't need to mess with it that much. You know, I don't have to be a perfectionist on the opening sentence of the podcast every time.
I noticed because now you start talking over it sometimes.
That's the key. That's it.
I'm like, this isn't live. This is recorded. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is. That's all live. I start talking over it at different times. I wait until the counter gets to about 8 seconds. I know I have 8 seconds left on the intro music because now I have this Rodecaster Pro. Like I can do everything all at once live. Like I can hit this button and the intro music will start playing. And then it gives me a countdown. I mean, it's like a very mini radio station right here for me. And because of that, I can actually play with it. And I've also started to relax. You know, I've gotten, 200 episodes in, I can start to relax a little bit more and just enjoy the show, which is what my goal in life is to just enjoy being part of the paranormal community.
Awesome. That's cool. So we are Whispers from the Dark here, the official podcast of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We started this as kind of like a way to supplement our episodes because, we can't put everything into an episode. So we started talking about it, and it's grown into more and more. Like now we go out to the conventions and we interview people there and speakers and TV personalities and stuff. And we're actually coming up on our 100th episode.
I saw that. That's it. First of all, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. And you are sitting here coming up, I think by the time this actually airs in a couple weeks, you'll be past it, but you're coming up on your 200th episode.
The 200th episode. Now there has been, I don't include them in the count, but there has been a bunch of live episodes that I started during the pandemic, but those aren't official. Those are just for fun. But yeah, the official 200th episode will be coming up in 2 episodes. I just put out 198 yesterday. And it's a huge, you know what? I won't, it's a huge milestone.
It is.
I kind of talk it down quite a bit, but I'm not going to talk it down. It's a huge milestone. Like to think that I would do 200 episodes, that anybody would listen to me for any amount of time, let alone for 200 plus episodes. And I'll say it, I'm very proud of it.
You should be.
Thank you.
I think, like for my sake of doing the shows here, like I gave up caring if people listen to it or not.
That's the key. Yeah.
I do it because, it gives me a chance to talk to people like you. Like if I didn't have this show, would I be able to sit here and pick your brain or anybody's brain about, topics that I'm interested in? Oh no. Hey, I have this show. Can you come talk to me for a little while? And it's amazing how people, like the biggest people that, you meet are just like, yeah, sure. All right, give me a mic. And they talk for like an hour. We were across the way from Jeremy Leonard from Ghosts of Morgan City.
Nice.
And he came over and he's like, "What's this microphone for?" I'm like, "Oh, we have a podcast. Would you like to be on?" Yeah. He stood there and talked for almost an hour until he made like this gesture, and we're like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I have to go to the bathroom." And we're like, "Oh, okay, hey, go," and so that was the only reason he ended our conversation, was because he had to go. So these people are so generous with their time and that, and it's just been so cool.
See, and that's why I wanted to do the podcast, because I talked about this stuff to my friends, the ones that actually would listen to me. Other ones were like, "Lude, I hate the parent. Stop talking about the paranormal." But I had friends that were like, "Hey, man, like, tell me more. You know a lot about the paranormal. You got a bunch of stupid books and stuff." And I would talk about them. And then I was like, well, I'm talking about it conversationally. Why don't I talk about it on a podcast conversationally? So like you just said, so I can talk to you, because again, like I dig the podcasting community, or not the podcasting, the paranormal community. I dig the paranormal community because it's nice. It's nice to chat with people that have the liked interest. Like if you talk to a Star Wars fan and you're a Star Wars fan, that's cool. Or they might be Giants fan, or they might be Giants fan. That's cool, because you have those like interests. And that's why I like the paranormal community, because I can geek out and start off on weird tangents, and then not have to be like, "Ooh, I went too far." And usually the person I'm talking to is like, "Yeah, exactly." And then they go off on the tangent. I love it.
Yep. You see this like glaze over in the eyes. You start talking like, "Oh my
Exactly.
god, I just heard this really cool thing," and and they're like, "Uh huh, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Oh, I gotta go now. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, definitely." So, what got you started into, like I'll be honest, I've listened to a lot of your shows. I would say probably about 75%. I haven't got through them all. There's a couple of
That's
them that
fine.
just haven't interested in me, but I've gotten
That's
through a
fine.
lot of them. Huh?
No, no, that's thank you for listening to
Oh,
any
yeah.
of them. Never have to apologize for that. That's totally fine. I, except for like when I, edited them, I haven't listened to any of my shows. So you've listened to more of my shows than me. But what got me interested in it? I don't know. I've always been interested in the paranormal, which is weird because I'm the only one in my family that's even remotely interested in paranormal and cryptids and UFOs. And it's always been that way. Whenever I had a chance to go to a library as a kid or buy a book from a bookstore as a kid, ultimately it would be about the paranormal. It would be about ghosts and UFOs, and Bigfoot was a big one for me. Still is. And I've just always been interested in it. And then I've always had these instances like back as a you say as a kid, but like when I was like 20 or so, I just randomly met this girl, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever been to this haunted house?" Not like a haunted mansion, but like a house that was haunted over here in Novi, Michigan. And I was like, "No." And then I went there, and we all had an experience. And there was like, from that experience to a UFO to to other ghost. And then I started investigating and realizing that there is something to this. I get that. I can get why people are skeptics. I consider myself a skeptical believer. I can get why people are skeptics, but once you get rid of all of the other possibilities of what this could have been, and then it wasn't this, it wasn't this, it wasn't this, and what you're left with is the paranormal, you have to go, okay, there's something to it. There really is. So yeah, I've always been interested in it. Loved it since a kid, and it's never ever gone away.
So you were just mentioning earlier you used to have a different podcast.
Yes, yeah, Drunken Metaphysical. That was my first foray into publicly talking about the paranormal, because my friend Ginny and I, this girl that I was absolutely in love with, but she was just a friend. She was just as into the paranormal as I was, and I could have this conversation with a gorgeous woman. And I was like, "This is awesome." And then she's like, "We should do a podcast." I'm like, "Hell yeah." And then she's like, "What if we got drunk and did a podcast, legally drunk, and then did the podcast?" And I was like, "Even better." And it was the worst idea ever to, every week, you're just going to get blasted drunk and then talk about a paranormal topic as best you can. it's not sustainable. I never could have hit 200 episodes on that, and
Your
it
kidneys shut
was a great
down.
idea. Yep. I had to shut it down. I was like, this is too much. I can't do this. I have a day job. I can't be, getting trashed every week just so I can talk about Bigfoot.
So you have had 200 episodes. You have researched a lot. You have done all these
Yes.
things, like everything from, like you said, Bigfoot to ghost ships and UFOs and all this stuff. So what has been out of all these topics? What has been your favorite or like most shocking thing that you've researched?
Interesting. Great question. I think honestly, it's haunted hotels because it's general enough that it's everywhere. There's haunted hotels every location. The shit that actually happens. Oops, I'm sorry. The crap
Oh,
that
you're
actually
good.
happens. Okay, I'm sorry. I went back to Paranormal Almanac. Sorry about that.
You're
The shit
good.
that actually happens in hotels on a daily basis is absolutely insane. And they all, the most skeptical non-believers in the hotels have had paranormal experiences. Every time that I've talked to somebody that worked at a hotel, which is a lot, they go, look, I don't believe in ghosts, and then they tell me the most batshit crazy ghost story. And I'm like, how can you not believe in ghosts after that? So definitely haunted hotels. I'm a huge fan of old Hollywood. So being out here in California and being able to go to these haunted locations and have some unfettered access to locations that I haven't even been able to talk about on the show because I've been told like, yeah, you can come here, but please don't, I don't want to cause a circus. So don't talk about it. But I've had a chance to go and investigate privately in some of these insanely awesome haunted Hollywood homes and locations is just an absolute dream of mine to get to walk through it just for the Hollywood side, not even the paranormal side, but then you got the paranormal too. So those are my two very big ones. But the thing I'm most proud of on the show is that I want to do the research. I'm never gonna just regurgitate something from a website. That's my big thing is that and one of the reasons I like you as well, I have to say it's honest to God truth, is that you do the research, you do the historical research, because I think that's missing on a lot of these popular ghost shows is they aren't doing that research. They're just going in, they're listening to the story, taking that as fact, and then trying to find a paranormal connection to that supposed fact. I auditioned years ago for Ghost Hunters and didn't get it because my whole audition was I want to go to the libraries. I want to go into the registries and find the records of this location of this house or this building and see if it's been changed over the years, and if so, maybe that'll explain some of these paranormal investigations, why this ghost walks through a wall.
Mhm.
And they were like, that's not what we do. That's not what we're into. We don't want to do that. That sounds boring, which is the most exciting part for me.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I feel that because like a lot of like some members of my team or stuff are like, "Well, this place is haunted. Don't you want to go there?" And I'm like, "But you're not learning anything." You
Yeah.
know, like I said, we do the Gainers Tavern, the Bean Snapper establishment. We have full access to that over and over and over and over and over again. We can say, well, this may have been caused by this. Let's find out. And the next time we go there, we ask new questions. We get those answers and do that. When you're going to these famous haunted locations, this prison, this hotel, blah blah blah. You go there once, you spend 3 hours, you leave. Oh, cool, we have evidence. Did you learn anything? Did you solve anything? Did you get anywhere with the paranormal?
That's
No.
exactly it. You haven't pushed that bar forward. That's what I want to do every time. Like when I love going to see David Omen's house. David Omen, his house is where the Sharon Tate murder site was. And he has in his mind, an incredibly very haunted house. And I will say that I had experiences at his house. So there is something valid to that statement. There is something there paranormal. But I noticed that when I went like 5, 6, 7 times in a row where there were other people doing paranormal investigations. And, David said that at this time, this would move. And that's all they cared about. And I'm like, you have unfettered access to this house. Move that bar forward. Go to the other, find out what else is happening in this location while that's happening, or figure out why that's happening and then move on to something new. Because that's the thing that I like is the new. When I had a new experience and he was like, that is never when you get to a point where the owner goes, holy that has never happened. That's what I like. I like the new stuff, the new things that push that bar forward.
Mhm. We just got kind of the same thing you said. This wherever you want to go, do whatever you want to this haunted historical complex, and
Ooh,
there were 7 buildings, and there is a train on the property, and there's a caboose, a coach, and then the engine. And he said you can go in the caboose, but you can't go in the coach. And the engine is just an engine, whatever. And I said, well, we're doing an episode coming up here, maybe about like paranormal activity with trains, haunted ghost trains, stations, and stuff. I'd really like to go in the coach. He goes, well, as long as you say you're not going to sue, all this stuff, we'll let you in there. We had a lot of activity
really?
in that train coach. And we came out and he goes, well, what'd you find? Anything in the property? And we said, the most active place was that coach. Well, we've never had anyone go in there before. So, yeah.
Yeah, move the bar forward. Don't just go to the same spot. It aggravates me when they're like, "We're going back to Allegheny." Cool, Allegheny's very haunted. That's awesome. But you're doing the exact same things as everybody else that's already been there. You're not moving it forward. Try something new. Try new equipment. Try even not even new equipment. Try something, just a new tactic that could prove give you results. It's not a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee in the paranormal community.
You went fuzzy here.
Uh-oh. Am I still around?
You're still there. You're cutting out, though. Whispers from the Dark will be right back after this quick message from our sponsors.
Do you want to do a real paranormal investigation of a well-documented haunted location? Here's your chance. Join our team as we continue the investigations of the Gainer Tavern, currently Bean Stamper's Gentleman Club in Mackville, Wisconsin.
Originally built in 1877, the building was served as a general store, blacksmith shop, tavern, post office, dance hall, and bar. The building was originally built by Michael Gaynor and remained in the family for 5 generations before being sold to Bean Snappers in 1993. Throughout documented history, the building has been hit 4 times and burned twice, with 4 recorded deaths on the property.
Some of the most notable paranormal claims that we have documented are a male disembodied voice, a female disembodied voice, objects moving, doors opening and closing, lights turning on and off, knocking in response to questions, the sound of someone sitting down next to you on furniture, physical interactions including being touched, hairbrushed, and scratched, and other unexplained responses to our equipment, which include a REM pod, EMF meter, and an obelisk.
Bring your own equipment, or we have some you can use while you're here. Audio and video recording is encouraged. Here is your chance to investigate the paranormal. For the very first timers to the experienced professionals, we can walk you through, or you can take the lead. The time is yours. Ask your questions and get your answers. Limited space is available for tours, so make sure you purchase your tickets in advance at wisconsincaps.com. Click on the Gainers Tavern link under public events. You're good now.
All right, sweet. I don't know where I left off, but whatever it was a brilliant statement.
Yeah. It was we were talking about the train car and new evidence and new locations.
Oh yeah. Moving the ball forward is always that's the key for. I hate it when they go to like the same locations every time, and then they don't move the ball forward. They just go to that same spot where they had one ghost encounter one time, and they're trying to find that specific. It's like I always say, it's not the haunted mansion. Paranormal is not going to do things on your time and your cues unless it's a residual haunting. Then figure out why, and is that residual haunting happening on a specific date at a specific time? And then you usually can find patterns to those. So I'll give you that one. But if it's not a residual haunting, expecting it to happen every time is just insanity.
Well, listen, I absolutely love your show, and I don't want to say anything bad about it. But
Please do.
I have one bone to pick with you.
Ooh, I like this. You got me. Gotcha moment. All right.
All right. Here's my deal. I started listening to your show, and I can't remember why. There was an episode that I started listening to, and I was doing.
No one knows why they listen to my show. Come
One
on.
of the things I love about your show is that it deep dives into every topic, and you do due diligence in going through all the newspaper, all the articles and stuff. Here's my one bone, and it's only one episode that I don't like.
No, I love this.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me ask you this: you believe that the government knows more about UFOs than they're telling us?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the government says that UFOs don't exist, you don't believe that?
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
So on that note,
Where is this going?
I love this. On that note, you did an episode on giants.
Ah, I see where this is going. Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
and you say that the Smithsonian outright denies ever having skeletons.
True.
So my question and my problem with this is, why do you not believe the government, but you wholeheartedly believe that the Smithsonian Institute would not lie to us?
Great question. Great question. As far as the giants are concerned, what is the impetus of hiding giants? It wouldn't affect us on a religious aspect, because that's usually the key, or historically has been the key for hiding UFOs, because it would shatter the world because of the religious aspects of that. There are other people out there in the universe, and God didn't just create man, and blah blah blah. But for giants, what is the impetus of holding back on a giant? Because we do have evidence of like 10-foot tall Native Americans and Native American burial grounds. And there are historical newspaper stories that I've done on other episodes where they found giants. But in my brain, I can't connect why the Smithsonian would say, we got to hide all these giants. We can't have giants out there. The world would, crumble. What's the impetus of hiding a giant unless, which I didn't say in the episode, unless the giant skeleton is a Sasquatch skeleton? I could see them hiding that, because I do think the government knows more about Sasquatch than what they're saying. So I'll give you that. If it isn't a giant human, but it's a Gigantopithecus or a Sasquatch, then they would have impetus to hide them. But I'll throw it back to you and say, why would the Smithsonian, what's the point of the Smithsonian hiding giant skeletons or destroying them?
I have no idea. I do like your thought that it is Bigfoot, and I'm not sure if I've made that jump myself.
I just did it just now in real time.
Yeah, I could totally see that as being a reason why. But like you said, there are newspaper articles claiming these giant skeletons. There's pictures of them. You may know better than me, but I want to say that there is an actual giant skeleton on display at one museum still. And it's
the European one?
I believe so, yeah. I was going to say it's either in South America or over in Europe.
There is a European one, but it hasn't been proven scientifically to be real. There's no DNA testing that they've done on them. And I actually, it's funny because I think I left that off the episode because I went down that rabbit hole, but then I couldn't find any conclusive evidence. Oh, I take it back. I actually reached out, whatever the museum is, wherever it was, I reached out to that museum saying, hey, I'm doing this episode. And when I reach out to museums, I always say, I'm not a believer. I'm a skeptic, because I don't want them to go, oh, it's some paranormal nut, and they won't read the email. Even though I am a believer, don't get me wrong. For when I reach out to museums, I always say, hey, look, I'm a skeptic. But this has been brought up, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Do you have this item in your museum? And it's not on display anymore, as far as I remember. But can you tell me, is it real? Has it been scientifically tested? And they said, no, we don't have that item in our museum, which I thought was really odd because there's photos of it in the museum. And I'm like, all right, so that's weird. Where's the disconnect there? And I didn't go down the rabbit hole on that episode because I was running long. But I will say that was one of them where I was like, I don't know what to believe on that part of it. I don't think the Smithsonian is behind it. I think the Smithsonian gets a lot of bad rep for, they're just destroying fossils that the government doesn't want you to see. Because again, I don't see why they would do that. If they had giant skeletons on display, more people would go to the Smithsonian. It's only more money for them. What's the reasoning behind it? But look, if that's your biggest bone to pick with my podcast, you have not listened to every episode. There should be bigger bones to pick.
No, that I've always had that issue. I was like, no, why do you believe in the government's lying to us and not the Smithsonian? Where do you draw that line?
Why do you think that? Why is that a bone to pick? Why do you think that? Why are they doing it?
I think that my issue with it is that, like you said, I'm very skeptically believer.
Hmm.
And at the same point, I cannot prove that the Smithsonian had them, nor can I prove that they didn't have them. So it's still open. Like to me, there's a lot of places that say the Smithsonian came and got them. Well, maybe the Smithsonian didn't come get them. Maybe the government came and got them.
See, that I can get behind because the Smithsonian takes detailed records of anything they go out and get because they have to. Because
Mm-hmm.
when it comes time for, you know, Egypt to be like, you got to give us everything back because it's always on loan.
Mm-hmm.
So the Smithsonian does everything on loan unless it's donated to them. But these weren't donated. They always say the stories always said that. Oh, the Smithsonian came and they got them and they took those skeletons and then they destroyed them or then they hid them. And I was always like, well, there's got to be a record of that. There has to be a record of them sending someone out. In fact, one of the newspaper articles about the Giants and the Smithsonian actually had the name of the employee that came to get them. And it turns out they never existed. They never worked for the Smithsonian. So I was like, okay, I'm going to call that one BS and move on to the next topic. So there is some, yeah, there's some doubts. I can get behind that, but I can't, in my mind, I can't figure out the benefit of the Smithsonian destroying that unless the government grant the Smithsonian gets is, has some secret clause at the bottom that says, but we get to tell you what you can put out, or we have to tell you can destroy it. And if you don't, you're going to lose your government grant. Maybe. I mean, weirder conspiracy theories are out there, so why not?
Definitely. So, what do you think of the whole fact? Have you looked into Gigantopithecus at all?
I have. I am a firm believer that Gigantopithecus is Sasquatch.
Okay.
I think that because if you look at the branch of when we were starting to grow, and there's not just Cro-Magnon, there was Neanderthal, there's all these other ones, there's all these lines that went. Gigantopithecus just stops where all these other lines go past him. It makes, again, I'm no scientist, I'm no expert. I am a cryptozoologist, but I will say that it doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind that Gigantopithecus just ended for no reason, and yet we still see these things that match up to a known Gigantopithecus skull. It matches. It's right there.
So you're aware that the only evidence of Gigantopithecus is a tooth.
That is true. The skull is built around the actual tooth. That is true. But I trust science that someone smarter than me can do that because they've done it with dinosaur skeletons as well, that they've built up the rest of it around it. And I think that, I mean, again, it's just me and I don't know. I don't want a Bigfoot, as you know, I don't want anyone to shoot a Bigfoot so we can have proof of Bigfoot. But I think the only way that we're going to get verifiable proof of Bigfoot is no longer hair samples and scat and blood samples. It's going to be a body or a skeleton. And I think the skeletons are even harder to find than us getting a body.
So what do you think about the fact that we've classified an entire species of Gigantopithecus based on a tooth, but we have what is considered hair samples, footprints, all this evidence of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and yet we still can't put a name to that?
Because I honestly think that, boy, I'm going to sound like a crackpot a little bit, a tinfoil hatter a little bit, but I think the government is behind a lot more of it than what the regular public knows about Bigfoot. And again, I don't really understand the point of it because they didn't do that to like the Bondo apes, or they didn't do that to even like the silverback gorillas. They didn't seem the need to do that. So why are they doing that with Sasquatch? But there is a lot of evidence that says we have an unclassified creature. There is DNA that we still don't know what it is. Sure, like the Yeti will probably end up being that bear. I can get behind that. There's some other bear that survived up in the Himalayas or wherever that survived, and that's probably what the Yeti is, but that's not what we're finding in the DNA samples and the stuff that actually gets out. Blood samples. The blood samples are the ones that always gets me. There was a guy that put a bunch of nails on a board and then a Bigfoot stepped on it in his cabin. So he had a ton of dried blood, and yet they couldn't get any verifiable DNA off of that. That makes no sense. No sense to me at all. They can get DNA off of one speck of a blood drop, you know? So there's something more to it. Someone's holding back on something, and I don't get why.
If you can leave a fingerprint at a crime scene and have enough evidence to convict you, you can't tell me
Yeah.
that you can't prove Bigfoot exists. Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. And I don't think that every video on YouTube or every photo on the internet is real. I'm not that much of a tinfoil hat, listeners. Don't worry. But there is a lot of evidence. Again, like once you debunk all the stuff that it's not, there's still a lot of evidence there. There's been a lot of people that have nothing to do with the paranormal or Bigfoot, even after seeing one. They still want nothing to do with Bigfoot. And they said, I had this encounter. This thing was real. I saw it right there. It's real. And the fact, like, if you look at the map of where Bigfoot or Yowie or Orang Pendek, like whatever you want to call it, like the names around the world, it's everywhere. There's a reason that people are seeing this thing on every corner except for like Antarctica and, you know, Arctic or whatever. Like basically everywhere else, they're seeing these things for a reason, because these things migrated just like humans did. That's my connection to Gigantopithecus, is it migrated just like the people did.
What have you looked up on Dogman and stuff? Have you looked into any of those?
You're going back to my
you have the
hometown.
episode,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
No, that's great. That's a great question. I think that ultimately there's going to be a lot like the skunk ape and everything. I think ultimately they're just different versions of Bigfoot. I think Dogman is thrown in there as well. I don't think there's a lot of people that think that Dogman is like a werewolf. I don't personally think that. Again, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I personally think that Dogman is closer associated with Bigfoot than he is with like a werewolf or a chupacabra or anything else. And Dogman, the spots that Dogman was cited has a very high content of, or a lot of Bigfoot sightings on that same areas as well of Michigan. And Michigan's got a lot. That's weird. My light just went out.
I saw that. Yeah, your lights are flashing in the background there.
Okay. That's two for two. One
for
for you and one
that
for
is
me.
not watching this, like we have had a lot of weird issues. Oh,
all right.
Now your camera went out of focus.
What the fuck is going on right now?
What was the first one? We were recording your show first.
Yeah.
And something
you
happened.
Had your screens went out on your end.
Yeah, that's right. My screens went out. Both of them on my screens went out. And then your internet went down a little bit ago on the episode here. And now your lights are flickering over there.
It's a good time. It's a good time. I like it. This is what I like when I start talking about weird stuff. But Dogman, I think that Dogman is real. I think that Dogman is just another either offshoot or cousin or whatnot of or a different family line of Sasquatch.
Interesting. I personally don't know. I mean, I think that there's no fossil record or anything to go the route of a Dogman or like some of these other things, you know, which you have with Bigfoot. So
that's exactly it. That's why I think that you got to give credence to Bigfoot, because again, like Yowie, like when people came over to Australia, and the Aborigines were like, don't go over there. There's a Yowie over there. And people were like, whatever, who cares? And then they went over there and sure as shit, there's a giant Bigfoot there. These people didn't have any inclination of what a Yowie would be. And then when they talked about it, the Aborigines said, or the indigenous people said, this is what the Yowie looks like. And then these colonists said, this is what we just saw. And it matched. When you get stuff like that, people that don't have any connections saying the exact same thing is real, something's real.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, you know, like a lot of the people, like we talk about some of the other cryptids and that, like the people that are indigenous there know what's in the woods because it will kill them. You know,
that's exactly
they hunt it, they eat it, they fish it. And when they say, well, this is a deer, that's not a deer. You know, well, how do you know it's not a deer? Because they live there and they see it every day, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Historical records and indigenous people are always my two most trusted sources. Like if I can find that, I am on board. I'm going to check this thing out. I'm going to do the research because like you said, they know what's there. They've been there. It's not just because I hate when people say, oh, well, Bigfoot was just a story that was passed down generation in the indigenous tribes of America. No, because Canadians had no connection with the Americans, or the indigenous people of Canada have no connections with the indigenous people of America, but they were seeing the exact same things. These aren't just tall tales to scare indigenous people. They saw them. They knew where to go, what to do, where to avoid, sometimes where not to avoid. They wanted to see them. They interacted with them because they knew the land. 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, get off on the whole like Bigfoot thing of, well, there's more than one Bigfoot. Like there's a family of them. I thought it was just one animal. No. I am so shocked at how many people I meet at these conventions and stuff, or out in public. They're like, oh, I didn't know it was a species. I just thought there was a Bigfoot, And
it always cracks me up. I've run into that as well. And I'm like, where do you think this one is just like running all over? Come on. It's being cited everywhere. Yeah. I've had that same conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just Bigfoot. You're talking about seeing the Yeti, the Yaren, the Yahoo, the skunk ape, and all that stuff. If you look at the descriptions of these creatures, like Mothman, we all know Mothman, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, this harbinger of doom creature. If you take away the name and you look for this winged humanoid creature, glowing red eyes, bat wings, you now have, the owl man. You have the Ahul. You have, I can't think of the Mexican one, the woman that turns into an owl.
It's been cited a lot of places, and even the indigenous people. If you look at some of the descriptions of Thunderbird, that matches. Like, yeah, you're right. It goes back and it's spread everywhere. Yeah.
So it's if you don't have the skeletal, well, here's the other thing. Skeletons, when something dies now, if it's left out in the woods, it'll be gone in a matter of a couple weeks by raccoons, porcupines, things eating it. The only way that you're going to have a fossil is under the very, very extremely perfect conditions to make that fossil, to make that skeletal remains. And you don't have as many volcanoes going off and dried up riverbeds and stuff. It's just why you got these fossil remains of the dinosaurs. You're not getting that now with these modern creatures and stuff. So
that's true. Oh yeah, and that's what
fossils.
Yeah, no, that's what bums me out is that you don't have to go out and kill a Bigfoot. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of people shooting and killing Bigfoot throughout the past couple of centuries. Some of those stories have a location where they buried them on this riverbank. Cool. Somebody with way more money than me, go up there, do an expedition, dig it up, and see if you can find the skeletal remains, and then settle this thing once and for all. Because they're like, Art Bell always had a listener that said that he had killed a Bigfoot accidentally and he was scared of the government. So he hid the body, but told Art Bell where the body was. When this guy died, he wanted Art Bell to go and dig up the skeleton. And then Art Bell died before this guy, and now they've lost track of him. So there are bodies out there. If you believe these people, there are bodies out there that can prove everything beyond a shadow of a doubt. And yet here we are still debating on whether a Bigfoot is real or not. Not you or I, we both know it is, but other people saying that a Bigfoot is real or not.
Yeah, well, if the Smithsonian would just let us see the bodies.
Damn you, Smithsonian! You
right
have
back around. There we go.
Wait back around. I like it.
All right. Well, as far as like all this weird stuff going on, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the thing you got in the mail.
The Hand of Fate. All right, here I'll grab it.
All right.
I cannot stress how heavy this flipping thing is. I got I got a package in the mail. I thought I was getting something that I had bought off of eBay. This dumb life-size Michael Keaton as Batman bust, because Michael Keaton is the best Batman. He is Batman. So I went outside one day and there was a big package and I was like, yay, Michael Keaton is Batman bust. And I lifted it up. I'm like, Jesus, this thing's heavy. They packed it well. Good on them. And I open up the box and I was like, uh-oh, this isn't a Michael Keaton as Batman. There is a wood box, like say 2 feet long, wrapped insanely well. And then there's a note on top of it. And do you want me to read the note?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. And the note says, and it says to Kurt spelled incorrectly, which still to this day drives me crazy. Come on, listener. It says, Dear Kurt, We found this under the dirt basement of a flooded farmhouse. As soon as it was unearthed, strange things started happening, including sounds, things moved, smells, and finally a fire. I hope you will know what to do with it. Signed, L. All in like old lady cursive, like hard to read old lady cursive. And I was like, uh-oh, I'll stop. Like, this isn't what I expected. And it wasn't sent to my P.O. box. It was sent to my home. So I looked and I'm like, sure enough, it was shipped to me. They paid a ton of money because the hand itself, it's got to be 10, 15 pounds. And then it's got a wood, like coffin-y looking, child's coffin-y looking thing that it was in. So I called up my friends, Todd and Jamie, and I said, hey, look, I want to do a live unboxing. I have no idea what it is. And I read them the note and they said, yeah, we'll be there Saturday. So Saturday they came, opened it up live on camera because I wanted people to not think like this is real. This is what I got. And I wanted to show people that were watching, like, this is exactly, you're going to see it as I see it. It could be something cool. It could be nothing. I thought it was a joke. I really thought it was going to be like someone's shirt that they wanted me to wear or plug on the show. But the thing is, I could have easily just opened it and then never talked about it again. So there is no, like, I don't get the point of why they sent it to me. If it's legit a hoax, what's the hoax? What's the point of it? It's not like someone's selling these things or made a bunch of them. And it's not like I could have just, like I said, I could have just opened it and never talked about it. And then they wouldn't have got anything out of it. So I'm opening it up and we open up the box and you could tell that the box at one time, it's a 19th century wood box. I had it looked at. It is a 19th century wood box and it's got a keyhole, like a skeleton keyhole, but you could tell that there was water damage, assumingly from this flooded basement. So the story's kind of checking out. And then the box or the lock had popped so I could open it up. It was tight and it took me a minute, but I finally got it open. And when I opened it, there was this wood box filled with dirt. And then this thing wrapped like kind of like a mummy. If you can picture like a mummy's hand, it was wrapped like that, sitting in the dirt. That's all I could see. And I was like, oh my God, I think someone sent me an arm or like a child or like a dead pet or something. Like this could be bad. And I looked at Jamie off camera and Jamie was like, she whispered, do you want me to call the cops? And I was like, no, let's just wait and see. Because there was an overabundant smell that came out of it. It wasn't a death smell, but it was very potent. To me, it smelled like definitely mildew and definitely alcohol. I smelled like a hard alcohol, like a whiskey alcohol. And so we just started unwrapping it. And what we unwrapped was a claw hand made out of solid bronze, not cast. It's not cheaply made. I've got a buddy that does metal work. He looked at it and said, this thing is quality made. This isn't something from like the Renaissance fair or something. And it's got a circle in the center that we think, again, no idea what it is, but it looks to me like it would be for like a tea light or holding something goes there, a crystal or a tea light. And it's all covered in verdigris, verdigris, the green stuff. Like you can tell it's old bronze. And then in the end of it, there were like water crystals in there. So this thing had been there in this box for a very long time. And then we started digging through the box. Todd immediately noticed that the box had sigils carved into the lid, under lid and underneath the box. And we started digging, or I started digging through the dirt, and I think we found the St. Patrick's Cathedral medallion first. I think so. And then we found a photograph of a woman in like 1920s garb, but you can't see her face because it's all overblown or whatever. It's faded out. You know, you can't really see her face anymore. Maybe water damage. I don't know. And then a Westminster Abbey hymnal from 1935. 1935, July 21st, 1935. And the hymnal's been there forever. And then finally, we found at the very bottom of the dirt when we thought all was gone, and we found like charcoal and cinnamon. There was cinnamon dusted all over it, which was really weird. At the very final piece was a 1911 penny was in there, American penny from 1911. And I desperately reached out to like the listeners repeatedly. I've done it on quite a few episodes to say, hey, you know, if you're the one who sent this to me, please let me know what area it's from. I need more info about it. And I have not heard back at all. There was no return address on the package, nothing. But now I've got this Hand of Fate sitting here, which is amazingly cool and neat to look at, and it's fun, but I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who made it. I don't know how old it is. There's no markings on it. There's no dates. And it's just this big mystery that has been like kind of like handed to me to continue the mystery. That's why I want to tell people about it as much as I can. Hopefully someone can find, like, there was a couple of listeners that found a couple of the sigils, and those sigils go back to like the 1500s. So some of the sigils still haven't been identified, and they're getting harder to read, which is really bumming me out. I'm glad I took a bunch of photos when I did, because the sigils are very lightly scratched into it, and they're fading so quick, even though I haven't really opened up the box. So there's a lot of weirdness on top of weirdness that I don't know where it came from. What do you think? You're you know stuff. What do you think? Why was it sent to me? Why was it put there? What do you think?
It sounds like some sort of like spell work, with the
Yeah.
sigils and the putting the artifacts in there. Did you? I think you said there was a picture.
Yeah, you want to hear? So the photo is really hard to see, but it's a photo of a woman in like I said, like 19. There we go, like 1920s garb. There's a wood chair next to her, but her face is gone from the photo. Not that she doesn't have a head, anybody, but it's just like blown out, or it just never was there. And it's definitely, I checked that as well. It is an old photograph. It's a legit old photograph. Everything is real. I contacted Westminster Abbey. I sent them photos, and they said, yeah, that's a hymnal from July 21st, whatever it was, 1935. Like everything, the penny is definitely a 1911 penny. The cathedral, St. Patrick's Cathedral medallion or necklace, whatever you want to call it, is vintage as well, or antique. So every piece of it seems to be antique items that were put there for some specific reason that I don't know why.
I have a bit of advice for you. Do you happen to have? I know we were talking about it before, but do you have a full spectrum camera?
I don't. That I did at one point. My full spectrum camera. I'm getting one again, but I see where you're going with this, and I like this, and I have not thought of doing this, taking full spectrum photos of the inside of the box, the sigils and stuff, or everything.
The photo, actually. We had a really old photo at an investigation, and I have a night vision camera. And the cool thing about that is it picks up infrared, and that light is still part of the pictures and stuff like that. And you can actually pull off of that picture with full
Interesting.
spectrum that you can't see right now, that there might be more there, or writing
Oh,
on the back of it and stuff. We've gotten
interesting.
more
I like
evidence
that
off of
idea.
that. So
I really like that idea. I'm getting another one. That's what made me bring it up when we were talking earlier, bringing up full spectrum cameras, because I can see the use for them, and I definitely need one, but I don't want to rely on it. But for this item, that's a great idea, great suggestion, and I'm going to do that. Definitely.
cool. I'm glad I could help.
Yeah.
If you have those sigils or stuff, if you want to send them to me, I can try and look around. One
Oh,
person that you might reach out to would be Dana Newkirk from
okay.
Hellier. I know
Yeah.
she's pretty big into that stuff. If you send them to them, she possibly. I know they did a whole episode or a whole thing of. They had a similar situation. Somebody mailed them what they called a crone, which is this statue, and it had a noose tied around its neck and all this stuff that was found, and they had all kinds of weird stuff happen to them because of that. And they had to do the research into that, so they might be good resources, Greg and Dana
Interesting.
Newkirk, for you to try and reach out to and see if they have any information for you.
Oh, I definitely will. I definitely will. Because I want to get to the bottom of this more than, and that's why I want this story to kind of get out, because I want to get to the bottom of it. And I will say that the only really weird thing that has happened since I got the Hand of Fate was there was an arsonist that lit my neighbor's hedges on fire for no freaking reason. Just like this 18-year-old kid that just kind of snapped, and not just my neighbors, but other neighbors in the area. And there's a photo of us trying to put out, my neighbors and I ran out and we helped put out the fire because we're getting very dangerously close to the house. It almost took out two houses. But well, there's a photo of us, quote unquote, battling the fire while I'm, filling up water. And there's a weird cloud of smoke that is not connected to the fire in any way, shape, or form that is coming from my house. And it's very bizarre. It's on my Facebook. You can, my personal Facebook. You definitely take a look. But that's the only weird thing that's really happened since I've had the Hand of Fate. I've had, friends over that some people like it. Some people won't touch it at all. My one friend, she was like, no. And she put her hands away and she moved away. And she's like, I don't want to touch this. There's something telling me not to touch that Hand of Fate. And the only reason I call it the Hand of Fate is because I needed a nickname for it. And I liked, MST3K, Manos Hand of Fate. So I was like, Manos Hand of Fate. So I was like, I gotta name it something. But yeah, it's the weird part of being part of this paranormal community is now this thing resides behind me all the time. Oh, no, I take it back. There was another thing that happened. I got a FLIR for my phone, and it was the only thing over there that had residual heat. No reason. It's no sunlight. It's not a wall that's external wall or anything. And the Hand of Fate had residual heat, and my EMF detector just goes batshit crazy around it randomly. So for no reason. And it's happened on numerous times. So there is something to this bronze heavy as hell hand.
Cool. Well, I look forward to listening to more of your Hand of Fate updates.
You got to give the kids what they want.
Definitely, man.
Oh, and I should say, I don't think you've seen it. Maybe you've seen it. You probably have seen it. I made a mold of the Hand of Fate, and I've got multiple Hands of Fates now, just because people really wanted one, and I was like, I'm not giving up my original Hand of Fate, so I'll make them molds and I'll sell them to listeners if they really want a Hand of Fate. But yeah, that was the last thing that I did with the Hand of Fate was just, make a detailed copy of it. And it's weird. Like even the back of it is just everything about it is just odd. The fact that there's skulls around the base of it, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I don't know.
Have you seen Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Oh, yeah.
They make the little copies of it.
Oh, yeah. See, there you go. I'm spreading the evil.
You're spreading it out now. It's onto you. You're doing exactly what it wants.
That's exactly it. It was this whole goal was this guy will make molds. He'll send them out to people. Yep. Everybody have a Hand of Fate.
All right, Kurt. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I appreciate your show. Tell everybody where can they find you? You got t-shirts and everything and all kinds of cool stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for listening to the show too. I cannot thank you enough. Anybody that listens to the show, it still blows me away. You can find me at Paranormal Almanac, paranormalalmanac.com. You can email me at paranormalalmanac@gmail.com. I wanted to make it easy. But yeah, if you want to check out the merch, there's tpublic.com/stores/paranormal-almanac. I know it's terrible. I can't get them to fix it. Or there's links all over the place. There's an unofficial fan page on Facebook that I'm on all the time because I think everybody that's on there is really cool. There's an official Facebook page as well. I try to be out there. I don't use Twitter as much as I should, or Instagram. I still haven't TikToked. I can't get in. I can't get my head around the fact. But I will say I found out that there's people that are taking clips of my show or stuff that they got off of my show and then getting like 1 million views on TikTok. So I should start TikToking is what I'm saying. But ultimately, you can find me just about anywhere. My name's Kurt Sandvig. I can't thank you enough. This was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish you the best of luck on all your future shows, plus 200 coming up here. And,
hell yeah.
That's awesome.
I can't wait to have you out. You got to come out here, man. We got to hang out here.
Definitely. If you ever get up here, I'd love to take you out up here as well.
Oh, I definitely want to. If for no other reason than to go to, what is the Bean Snapper? Is that what it's called?
Bean Snapper's Haunted Strip Club. Yep.
I want to go there so badly. This sounds cool.
Definitely. You come up here, you let me know. We'll get you hooked up.
Sweet. Love it.
All right. Well, that has been Kurt Sandvig from Paranormal Almanac. And until next time, guys, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Barnaby.
I'm Kurt Sandvig.
We'll see you next time.
Wait.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Whispers from the Dark. To find out more about cryptids, anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, visit us at our website at wisconsincaps.com. That's wisconsincaps.com. There you can find links to all of our social media: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and our Patreon. You will see links to our online store as well, where you can get t-shirts, DVDs, and more. If you click on the public events page, you can find out where you can meet us in person and all the public events we have coming up. If you enjoy our podcast or our YouTube shows, please consider becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/WisconsinCaps. There you can find behind-the-scenes pictures and videos from all of our media, as well as bonus footage and evidence that we have collected. If you have encountered something you can't explain, we want to hear from you. Visit our website and click on Submit a Report on our main screen. You can choose to leave your contact information or simply remain anonymous. You can also reach us via email at wisconsincaps@gmail.com. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please contact us on our Whispers from the Dark podcast page on Facebook, or send us an email at wisconsincaps.com. Remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch or find us.